Hi, my name is Stefan Beely, and I'm the CIO of Pegasus One. Along with the CEO of Pegasus One, Tushar Puri, we'll be talking about infusing AI into any enterprise quickly and easily. So, any enterprise, big or small, can start today building powerful AI apps with predefined API building blocks available from several companies. Amazon, Google, Snowflake, they provide that oftentimes free, sometimes not, depending on what you need and the frequency of use. For the purposes of today's discussion, we'll be mostly focusing on the Microsoft Cognitive Services and the APIs that they provide. So we had recently at Pegasus One concluded a project where we built a healthcare platform that we had extensive use of Microsoft Cognitive Services, especially related to speech and language. The project went so well, and we decided that, look, we need to really talk about it and how easy it is today to use these building blocks to get excellent results out of the box using these already built cognitive services with almost no additional customizations. In the specific project that we did work on, we were able to provide, and because it was necessary, additional customizations, but it was really more just providing additional training for the AI models. And really, by using the pre-built AI APIs provided by Microsoft Cognitive Services, we were able to save close to 60 to 70% of our previous estimates in time and costs. So the solution, it was really patient focused. It was a medical office management application, had some features such as telehealth, that also had various therapeutic options for cost management, a learning management system for patient education, and also a built-in health records management. So it offered really a suite of services that, that if you wanted to write it from scratch, it would be a very comprehensive, very involved system. So in this presentation, we'll elaborate on the cognitive services that we use, again, specifically the language and speech portions of it, and how they can be used to infuse intelligence into any application that you might have today. And to keep things practical, to keep things real, we will include some examples and demos of the service in action. And we hope this will broaden your view of how AI can be included or adopted in your business or service. So to talk about the first part, I'm going to hand that over to Tushar. So go ahead, Tushar, take it away.
Thanks, Stefan. What we developed is a patient-focused medical office management application, which had features such as telehealth, provided various therapeutic options for cost management for the patients, a learning management system for patient education, and a built-in health records management. The presentation will elaborate on Azure Cognitive Services, specifically the language and speech services, and how they can be used to infuse intelligence in any application that you might have today. To keep things practical, we'll include some examples and demos of the services in action. We hope this will broaden your view of how AI can be included or adopted in your business and services. So what are cognitive services? Cognitive services are a collection of artificial intelligence APIs. An API like this have essentially led to democratizing the artificial intelligence. So what that means is, regardless of your skill level, whether you're a high school student running your first program or working in industry, that you should be able to use these APIs incredibly quickly in a matter of minutes. All of the APIs are REST-based APIs, which means you can call them as long as you have an internet connection. So regardless of your platform, whether you're on Android or iOS or Windows or making a SaaS application, you can use them. So that's pretty huge, because what we are doing is making it so that everyone can build these smarter and more context-aware applications. The Technology used in APIs is the same technology that powers Microsoft products today. So when you think of things like Bing search APIs, same technology from Bing that allows you to conduct voice-based searches. So what are the benefits of cognitive APIs? Simply put, they are easy to implement and they work well. They are easy to implement because of the simple REST calls. Being REST APIs, there's a common way to implement, and you can get started with all of them for free at Microsoft Azure website. Cognitive services have the breadth and depth of intelligence all wrapped in as APIs. So developers will be able to find what features they need, and most importantly, they all work in whatever language, framework, or platform developers choose, such as Python, C Sharp, Node.js, and many more. In fact, these work great even in multi cloud and hybrid cloud environments. These are tested and validated, so you basically tap into ever-growing collection of powerful AI algorithms developed by experts. Developers can trust the quality and expertise built into each of these by Microsoft Research Organization. These capabilities are used across many Microsoft first-party products such as Cortana, Bing, and Teams. Although we started with predefined capabilities of the APIs, which already had several predefined models, but it allowed us to add and tweak the models as needed to contextualize the implementation as per our needs, such as tweaking for background noise. As an example, background noise at a hospital is different than background noise at airport. Similarly, you can customize predefined models for different dialects. Here we have a brief overview of broad categories of APIs provided by cognitive services. These include vision APIs, speech, language, and web search. Vision APIs are used to identify and analyze content in images, videos, and digital ink. Use cases can include applications for emotion detection, facial recognition, and OCR to name a few. Speech and language APIs will dive deeper as we move ahead. You can use web search tool to integrate advanced search capabilities in your apps to find anything on the web. It's powered by Bing search tool behind the scene and can be used not just for textual searches but also for video and image content. Now let's have a look at speech APIs. Speech APIs provide algorithms to process spoken language and it's powered by Bing. These also include speech synthesis for a subset of languages supported by speech recognition. With these APIs, you can easily include ability to add speech-driven actions into your application. In some cases, these APIs allow for real-time interaction with the user as well. Additional capabilities include voice recognition and speaker identification, as well as partial transcription, meaning that for supporting languages, the developer can get partial results before user has finished speaking. Bing Space Speech API convert audio to text, it understands intent, and convert text back to speech for natural responsiveness. Custom speech service enables you to create customized language models and acoustic models tailored to your applications and your users. By uploading speech and or text data to speech services that reflects your applications and users, you can create speech models that can be used in conjunction with Microsoft's existing speech models. To customize acoustic model to a particular domain, a collection of speech data is required, and this collection consists of audio files of speech data and text files of transcriptions for these audio files. The audio data essentially needs to be the representative of your scenario which you would like to use the recognizer. As an example, if you're building an app to search MSDN by voice, it's likely the terms like object-oriented, namespace, .NET will appear more frequently in typical voice application. Customizing Language model will enable the system to learn these. It uses acoustic or language model adaptation to enable speech recognizer to learn the characteristics of customers' data while still getting the benefits of all the data and expertise that went into creating the base models that powers these speech APIs. Speaker recognition API is a cloud-based speaker recognition algorithms to recognize human voice in audio streams. It's made up of two components, speaker verification and speaker identification. We'll have more on these little later in the presentation. Now let's dive deeper into speech services with some demos and real-life examples. In this slide, we see speech APIs being used together to provide an intuitive and intelligent interaction with the user. This example uses custom speech recognition with noise filtering, speech recognition, and Bing speech services in action.
Show me all flights from Pittsburgh to Boston, both direct and connecting, that depart Pittsburgh after 7 p.m.
Now we'll briefly talk about speech to text and text to speech services. Speech to text service provides speech recognition and pretty accurate transcription for several languages, including different dialects and accents. As an example, it can understand difference between speech in British English versus US English. Additionally, it allows you to customize models to add specific words to the base vocabulary or even build your own models. Whereas text to speech service allows you to convert text to a very natural sounding speech with over 100 voices and in over 40 languages. It also allows you to create unique voices that reflects your brand identity and also even tune the voice output for various scenarios by easily adjusting audio parameters such as rate, pitch, pronunciation, and pauses, etc. Another very important aspect to note here is that all these services are certified and compliant as per standards such as SOC, PCI DSS, HIPAA, and many more. Now we'll dive deeper into translator speech APIs. Translator uses a sequence of steps to convert speech from one language to another. The overall experience is simple and easy from end user's perspective. Its biggest promise is to break down language barriers. With real-time translation, you could carry out conversations with someone who does not understand your language. Most importantly, it allows for customization based on specific scenarios. As an example, if the conversations in your case are mostly about life sciences and often certain technical terms are being used which are not supported by out of the box models, then it allows you to enhance the correct model, which then also be made into a self learning and self enhancing as time goes by. Speaker recognition APIs are typically used for biometric authentication using voice, and upon successful authentication, can be used to provide context-sensitive information based on, say, your user privileges. So, as an example, as an administration of the application, you're allowed to update credit card information, whereas, say, as a sales rep, you're only allowed to update leads in a CRM, although all using voice commands. Speaker identification automatically identifies a person speaking from a group of prospective speakers, and in case there is a match found, speaker's identity is returned, and it is text independent, which means there are no restrictions on what the speaker says during the enrollment and recognition phases. So essentially, speaker recognition goes through three unique phases. First one being enrollment, which is typically a initial setup step where a unique voice print is created for a user, followed up by the recognition to identify who is speaking, and then finally verification to confirm the speaker is verified and allowed to access the information from the application. Now let's walk through few demos and then I'll hand it over to Stefan to continue with the language APIs.
The RMS Titanic left Southampton for New York on April 10, 1912. On board were some of the richest and most famous people of the time, who had paid large sums of money to sail on the first voyage of the most luxurious ship in the world.
We are going to show you this demo using just the microphones built into this laptop and these two smartphones we have in front of us. With these, we create a microphone array in the cloud that enables Azure Speech Services to provide accurate, in-person meeting transcription, even without a special meeting device.
Also, you will notice that I didn't bring my phone. But the service can still recognize my voice and correctly identify me, because I've given it permission to use my voice print to transcribe what I say. Now, the second thing we're going to show you is that the language model of Azure Speech Service can be trained on the data in your company's Microsoft 365 tenant, so it can learn the unique vocabulary of your industry or company. This is available in private preview.
Okay, so basically for the next 2 minutes, we're going to have a rap battle of sorts, but for all of us geeks here in the room. So Heiko is a principal PM on the speech team, and he's going to give us an example of some dev speak. And Yusuf is in healthcare marketing, and he's going to dazzle us with a little bit of healthcare tech jargon. So while they speak, I encourage you to follow along with the transcript on the screen so you can see just how powerful this service is. Heiko, take us away.
Azure Speech Services are built with VMs running on Azure hypervisors using Ubuntu-based Docker containers that are orchestrated with the Azure Cognitive Service. Azure Speech Services enable a variety of technical capabilities, including ASR, Neural TTS, Microsoft Translator, and related custom services. You can access these using your favorite programming language, such as Java, JavaScript, Node.js, C++, or C#, and others.
The bar has been set. Okay, now it's your turn to give us a bit of this healthcare jargon.
Microsoft Teams can provide EHR integration through ISV vendors, including Infor Cloverleaf, Redox, and others via the HL7 Fire standard. HL7 Fire is HIPAA, Mars-E, and GDPR compliant, and is based on modern technology, including HTTPS, and RESTful protocols, as well as extensible APIs. The Fire open source community makes their source available on GitHub, and the Microsoft Teams Fire implementation is also aligned with Project Argonaut and follows the US core profiles for all the Fire resources it consumes.
Well, that was fun. I'm going to call that a draw. So while we're going a bit overboard there, we understand that this is incredibly important so that every company in every industry with their own specific jargon can have accurate transcriptions.
La inteligencia artificial puede eliminar las barreras lingüísticas entre los presentadores y los asistentes. Lo que estás viendo es real y una gran demostración de la inteligencia artificial.
Wow. Hope you like the demos and provided some useful insights so you can use it in your businesses and application. Now I will hand it over to Stefan to continue with the language APIs and how those can be used.
Hey, thanks, Tushar. That was great. It's really amazing to see how far these speech APIs have developed. Now let's do a deep dive into language services provided by Azure. In the coming slides, we will cover what each of the language services APIs are used for, and we'll provide some real-world examples. In the language APIs, we're going to talk about the text analytics. The text analytics API is a cloud-based service that provides advanced natural language processing of raw text and really includes 4 major functions: the sentiment analysis, the key phrase extraction, language detection, and something called entity linking, which we'll go into detail about that. There's also the Being Spell Check API, which is part of the language APIs. This is really born out of the Bing search engine, which is, as you know, Microsoft's state-of-the-art search. And really, it's cloud-based, of course, and the spelling algorithm detects a wide variety of spelling errors and provides accurate suggestions. Using Bing Spell Check, your mobile and PC apps really are powered with state-of-the-art spelling capabilities. they train the service on a massive body of data from all the billions of searches and web pages that they've crawled through. So there really is no need to train your own models. I mean, the spelling model is also updated regularly and incorporates new terms and brands almost as quickly as they appear on the web. It's staying very up to date, and it's available through Microsoft Cognitive Services for free with customers who have low volume and high latency jobs. So oftentimes you can get somewhat meaningful, although if you have requirements where you're going to want low latency and high volume, of course you're going to start paying for it. Then there's another service called the Language Understanding Intelligence Service. Its acronym is LUIS. And this allows developers to build a model that understands natural language and commands tailored to their application. So, for example, you can say, turn down the thermostat in the living room. Send it to a LUIS model, and instead of just returning the text that represents what was said, LUIS will return tags. I think it returns actually a JSON string, and so the location, the action will be turned down, the location will be living room, and the target will be thermostat. So this allows developers to iteratively build on these models and take speech or text input and return a structured representation of what the person says as it applies to your specific application. So not only that, but LUIS will help developers create and train smart conversational bots. I think Slack and also Intercom use it, and so you can train them very easily with just normally a few buttons really. Next is the translator text API. It does a couple things. It'll automatically detect the language of any text string. Of course, it does translation for audio or live speech translation. It does 9 supported languages right now, and for text translation, it'll support 60 different languages. And of course, it'll do text to speech also. So you can send it a text string and receive back an audio version, and it does that right now in 19 different languages. And the last API that we're going to go over here, last language API, is the Q&A maker, the question and answer maker. It allows you, what it does is it allows you to quickly create a conversational layer over your data. So Q&A maker is a cloud-based API service, and we use it to build, it's used to build a knowledge base by extracting questions and answers from your semi-structured content, including FAQs, manuals, and documents. And then it will answer the user's questions with the best answers from the Q&As in your knowledge base automatically. And really the AI part of this is in doing the language translation to figure out which question they're really asking, because you're setting up a match between a question and then your provided answer. Well, the customer is going to ask the question a certain way, and then it has to figure out which question are you really asking so it can then find and return the right answer. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Note the example in this presentation. These language APIs are being used together to analyze text for sentiment and errors in spelling at the same time. It uses text analytics and Bing spell check to deliver the results. As you may have noticed, we were typing into this text box to analyze, and it came back with a 99% sentiment once they typed in words like I love salmon, etc. So Bing spell check is used in the beginning to check the text for errors in spelling, usage of slang, etc., and then translate's being used to figure out the sentiment and the intent and the purpose. So understanding and analyzing unstructured text is becoming an increasingly popular field and includes a wide spectrum of problems that it solves, such as sentiment analysis, key phrase extraction, topic modeling extraction, aspect extraction, and also language detection. From analyzing text, we can really gain insight into more than just the literal meaning of the words. An example of a use of the sentiment analysis could be gauging customer satisfaction. You could analyze customer service communication. In fact, we had a project where we analyzed the text from customer chats, from a chatbot, to gauge sentiment and point the customer to potential problem areas before they became prevalent. The services delivers results by analyzing the text and generating an actual sentiment score. This is done using classification techniques that you can set up in Microsoft Azure. The detection engine will recognize the language being used, while the extraction process analyzes the key topic of the text. So again, some use cases for text analytics. We talked about customer service initially. So, you can use it for more than just what they type in into a chatbot that we mentioned earlier. You can have actually audio recorded customer service calls that you can then translate the audio to text. You can run emails through it, surveys, call center logs, even social media. You can run it through to gauge, what is my customer sentiment? Is there a rising dissatisfaction, or perhaps people are a common thread or becoming tired with a certain product or something. An example might be, a telecom company that uses the voice of customer text analysis to scan Twitter for gripes. Again, it's kind of an early warning system and a tool that can be automated to gain additional insights into what is really happening, in your organization. Another use case could be fraud detection. It could be, workers claiming false compensation, a motorist disclosing a false home address. Fraudulent activity can be initially discovered or pointed out much more quickly when those investigating can join the dots together faster. And in the latter case, for example, about a motorist having an accident, submitting a false claim, the guilty party may give an address that has many claims associated with it, or the vehicle that was being driven may have been involved in other claims. So being able to extract that data out and then run analysis, will save the insurer time. It gives them the ability to gain greater insight into the case and get a head start on resolving it. So let's talk a little bit more about being spell checked. We talked about text analytics, and the major point out of that was sentiment analysis and how that could lead to greater insights. Well, being spell checked does more than really just correct spelling errors. It does things like contextually recognizes names and slangs and slang. It understands homonyms and supports brand names. It's really an indispensable tool in any app or service that's going to process user-entered text. And then, of course, it helps clean it up so that the analysis of that text later will be more accurate. So, again, let's talk use cases to bring this home and make this real to people. It can, of course, improve the quality of a website's product search. It could provide spelling correction for even a keyboard app, text fields, and a web page. And, of course, it can detect errors in any kind of user interface, text, and of course user data. So here's some real world examples that we were talking about. And you can even go and test it out on Bing yourself. If you type in Microsoft with a space and small m, hey, you know what? It knows who it works for. It's going to tell you the right spelling of Microsoft. You type in Stephen with a PH instead of a V, then and you have Spielberg as the last name, it knows who you're talking about and it knows the right way to spell it. And it does things like proper case. So you accidentally lowercase lift, it's going to proper case that for you. All right, so now let's talk about the translator text API. Just like translator speech services, translator text services allow custom speech to text and text to speech models that are adopted to different languages and writing styles. So, language translation has and will continue to improve the rules and the idioms and the exceptions are recognized and handled correctly. It's really an iterative process that is now getting better at a more rapid rate. I know back in the early days, say 10, 20 years ago, language translation was at best almost like somebody looking up word for word what it meant in a dictionary. It does. It takes time to learn a language, and computers are much better at it now. Computers and the software written for it are much better at it now, and getting better and better at a much faster rate. There's tons of use cases for language translation. It's a problem that it's been around forever and probably will be with all the different languages. You can find 100 different solutions for it. So now let's move on to language understanding, or like we talked about in the slide that talked about the language APIs, the Language Understanding Intelligence Service, or LUIS, offering by Microsoft Cognitive Services. So it helps you to understand language contextually. So your app communicates with people in the way they're used to hearing. Okay, with the Language Understanding Intelligence Service, you can integrate language models that understand users quickly and easily. And if one of the pre-existing models doesn't work, you can actually take and customize them rather easily. Now, a lot of the pre-built models, they're going to recognize places, times, numbers, and temperatures, that are specific to a certain language. When I say temperature, I'm talking about standards between, say, Fahrenheit and Celsius. And LUIS will support all the dialogue and action, so your users can really carry on a conversation with your app. For example, the input, schedule a meeting with Allison, results in the question when, right? And the user can then respond at 3 p.m. I mean, we've all seen this with the prompts on our phone, and really it allows you now to do it in many different languages. Cortana, of course, is the Microsoft offering that would help you do that. Okay, on now to the Q&A maker. The question and answer maker, aka the Q&A maker. It's really a question and answer matrix that you build, and then really the Q&A maker analyzes the question that the customer is posing, and then that will then match it to the question that you've pre-built, so you can then go back and retrieve and provide the right answer. I mean, really here, what you're doing is you're leveraging the AI's ability to parse the question posed by the customer to that pre-built question. And it also has a new feature now where you can build multi-step questions and answers. And so you can build better answers and resolve customer issues anytime and at a much lower cost than a live human. Well, that brings us here to the last couple slides. We hope that you learned something new today and found some of the services mentioned here of use to your business or your applications. You can learn more about them from the links that we've provided here on the slide, or contact us for a one-on-one session to better understand the viability of these services for your business. Reach out to us at any time on the phone or email provided, and we'll be happy to help. Thank you for listening to this webinar. Have a great day.